Hello, my name is Gina, and I've taken a lot of pictures of my face. So I've been taking pictures just in general. I've been doing photography since I was, for really my whole life, but in particular since I was 14 or 15 years old. My grandmother got me a little Olympus motorized film camera, and I took pictures all of the time. And when I got my first digital camera a few years later, I got really involved in just taking pictures of my face and myself and putting on makeup, not typically like this, but putting on makeup, getting into a position where I felt good and taking pictures of myself. I've been doing this for over a decade. So I wanted to get on camera today and talk a little bit about what I have learned in the past 4 or 5 years of doing my makeup every day and taking pictures of it. I want to talk more in the realm of my perception of myself a little bit in terms of like photography, and also hit some on issues of like ethics and photo editing and all of that good stuff, and hopefully pass on some of that, of what I have learned to you guys. This is what I have learned in taking over 10,000 pictures of my own face. One of the biggest things that I remember struggling with when I really started photographing my makeup in particular was this idea of like the person that I was seeing in the picture wasn't me, right? And that like I don't really look like that. And this actually went on either side. I would take a really nice picture and feel like, wow, that looks really good. And say to myself like, oh, you've got your head turned, or your head is, tilted downwards, so your face looks thinner and slimmer, and like, that's not really you. That's not really what you look like. And then I would see an unflattering photo of myself and almost simultaneously be like, yeah, that's really you. You're that ugly. And to me, kind of hating on myself like fat person. But at the same time, I would say like, well, the camera's positioned kind of weird, and you weren't really ready for it, and your posture is like not there, so maybe that's not really you either. And so I had this complex, and I really struggled for a long time to try and figure out, what did I really look like? If I was taking all of these pictures and none of them were actually me, what do I actually look like? And I realized, as I learned some of this other stuff that I'm going to talk to you about, is they were all me. They are all me. That's what I actually look like. The gorgeous like photos where my face looks like very heart-shaped and the light catches my eyes and it's beautiful and brilliant blue, that's me. That is what I look like. But also the pictures that catch me where I'm making a silly expression, or my posture is really bad and I'm slumped over, or at a different point in time when I weighed a little bit more and showed my body, those were me too. And one of the things that I learned, and as I kind of thought through this, is that our bodies are three-dimensional, right? And photos and video take those 3 dimensions and render them in 2. And so there is a bit of, not necessarily distortion, but it is a representation of you. It is a representation of what you look like in 3-dimensional space. The other thing is that our bodies, and in particular our faces, have so many contours and dips and shapes that light plays off of them in different ways, and it is literally impossible for you to be able to perceive all of them. There are literally trillions of different ways to view your face, and you only have access to maybe 1% of that. You are limited by where your eyes are placed and You know, you can only look in front of you. You can't, you can't look at behind you. I cannot see my face over here while I'm still looking forward. That's just not something I will ever see or experience. And working with a camera helps give you some access to that, but then of course it's rendered in 2D. So when you take a picture of yourself, you are giving yourself access to a perspective on your face that you don't get and that you can't get anywhere else, but it's still you. And there aren't really like pictures that look like you or don't look like you. There are pictures that present me. I guess I should be speaking more to myself. There are pictures that present me in a way that I like and pictures that present me in a way that I don't like. And that was really empowering in that, like, yes, these super unflattering pictures that made me look in a way that I wasn't comfortable with were me, and I had to like sit with and accept that, like, yeah, from, you know, that angle rendered in 2 dimensions, you don't like the way that you look. But it was also super empowering to say, yeah, that picture where you feel like you look like a model, you do look like that. That is you. And I think that's really important. And I think it's really important to understand that we are incredibly multifaceted objects in space, and there are so many different ways to view it, to view those objects, and they're all valid, and they're all me, they're all you. And I think knowing that some of them you like and some of them you don't is helpful in and acknowledging and accepting and appreciating all of them. It's not just that you are ugly or you are not ugly, and sometimes you can trick the camera into thinking that you're not ugly. No, that's not what it is. It's that sometimes at some angles you don't like the way that a camera represents you, and sometimes at some angles you do, but they're all you. And this also empowered me to stop feeling like I had to accept or own pictures of myself that I didn't like, and that I wasn't like preening or trying to be deceptive by getting pictures that I did like. It's just presenting yourself in a way that you like, which you have every single right to do. You have the right to present yourself the way that you want to in the world. Which brings me to my next point of what I learned, which editing your pictures is not the devil. Lenses and sensors are flawed facsimiles of our eyes, right? So one of the things that always baffled me was I would do my makeup and I would like look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I look great. And then I would take pictures and I'd be like, and I would have all of the skin texture that I had never seen before, and the colors would be off, the blending would be off, and I really struggled to reconcile what I perceived in the mirror and what I saw after I was done with what my photos look like. In order to kind of bring them up to speed, I just started editing my pictures. And when I started doing this, I learned that a lot of the messages that I had been given about photoshopping images in particular was that it was bad and wrong and deceptive, and that's just not the case. There is so much that a camera can't capture, and there is so much that a camera emphasizes that it shouldn't. And because the lens and the sensor are limited, they are going to catch the wrong things. They're going to emphasize the wrong things. They are going to sometimes misrepresent my face. And if I feel like that's a misrepresentation, I'm gonna fix it. And I'm fortunate enough that I have experience as a professional photographer in Lightroom, in Photoshop. I know how to do it in a way that isn't too much, or quote unquote too much. And I know how to get to a place where I feel like, yeah, this is how my makeup looked. This is how I feel like I saw myself that day. And I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel bad about taking off freckles. I don't like my freckles. I have the right to remove them if I want to. I'm not trying to deceive anyone. I am presenting myself to the world in the way that I choose. And if I take off, I think it's over here, I have a really large freckle on my face. If I take that off, I'm not hurting anyone, and I'm not distorting beauty standards. It's a photo. It is a representation. If I remove that freckle, it's still a photo of me. If I decrease the emphasis of the bags under my eyes because the light caught them in a bad way, that's still me. That is still a picture of me. Editing my pictures to better show what I perceive of myself, first of all, is completely within my right. It's within your right. But it's also completely okay. And I'll talk about this more. I'm going to have a separate video on the ethics of photoshopping beauty photos, but I wanted to put this here because I think that a lot of people, especially people who watch the beauty community, particularly the larger beauty community, have this criticism of like, these photos are just, they're deceptive, they're unrealistic. And maybe some of them are, but that doesn't mean that photo editing in general is bad or wrong or always something to be criticized or always something to avoid. You don't have an obligation to show yourself in any way that you don't want to. I think that one of the most important things that I learned in taking so many photos of my face is actually very technical and something that I actually think it's really, really, really important for people who in particular take pictures of themselves with their phone know. And it's that lens distortion is a real thing, and I was much happier when I began to correct for it. So let me explain what that means. If you have a phone camera and you're taking a picture of yourself, right? This way, the lens, let me see if I can explain this correctly. The focal length of the lens can change the shape of what is presented in the camera. So if I leave my camera the way that it is, so I'm at 28 millimeters, and I come closer, what my face looks like distorts. And if I come back, it goes back to a different shape. And this is really important because one of the things that I struggled with a ton when I started taking pictures of myself with my phone camera was that my face looked wider than I thought it was. And so it was like this huge like mind fuck, right? Where like I'm struggling with having gained 80 pounds in a year because I've been sick. And I take this picture of myself, and not only do I look bigger than I remember myself from like a year ago, but I look bigger than I remember myself from 5 seconds ago. And it's like this huge like struggle I had of like, am I uglier than I thought? And that's not to say that being fat is the same as being ugly. That's not what I'm trying to say. This is very much involved with the things that I was struggling with at that point in my life. But what was happening was not that I had a distorted perception of my face per se, but that the distance I was holding my camera like from my face was not enough to accurately represent my face. So there was lens distortion, making this part of my face seem a lot wider than it was. And if you look through my Instagram, you actually can see evidence of this within just in the last couple of weeks, where some pictures, like this part of my face comes out a lot more, and it's just lens distortion. It's just that the way that the lens bends the light into the sensor is different and skewed differently than real life. And photographers use this all the time to great effect. And there's actually a great video on focal lengths and lens distortion out there on the internet, and I'll put it in the description below because I only have a very basic understanding of it. But it's something really important to keep in mind. And there is no harm in saying, like, taking a picture up here makes my face look wider than it is, so I'm gonna go back here, or I'm gonna get a selfie stick and try and present myself in a way that I feel is accurate to the way that I look, or even better than the way I look in real life. And that's okay. But it's also really important to understand, and I don't think most people do. I don't think most people understand that a photo is not a one-to-one representation of yourself, and what you're taking a picture with, how far it is from your face, what kind of lens you're using, etc., all impact that representation. And you should think of a camera not as a thing that is telling you the truth, but a tool for you to get the representation of yourself that you feel most comfortable with. And this relates to the next thing that I want to say, and that is that lighting and angles and position of the camera make drastic differences in how photos come out. All of those things are still you, in the same way that a photo of my face distorted to be wide is still me. That is still a picture of me. It's just a picture of me plus lens distortion, right? And so when you adjust lighting, when you adjust the position of your camera, when you adjust your focal length or your distance from the camera, you are changing that representation of you, and it makes such a big difference. And this is one of the reasons why I am so comparatively lax about photoshopping, and that is because you can do a lot of the same things that you do in Photoshop or in an editor with light. You can do a lot of the same things that in those programs that you can do with adjusting the rotation of your head or the position of the camera from you. Like if I come down here and you have like this top-down view of me, those are all different things. You can achieve most of those with digital editing, but you can also achieve them with light. A great example is that at some angles in some lighting, my eye bags look really prominent, like really prominent. And don't get me wrong, I have under eye bags. I've worn glasses since I was 8 years old. That's just how it is. I'm not ashamed of it. But so one of the things that I noticed, and I don't know if it'll come up on video, but if I'm looking straight at a camera like this, you can really, typically in a photo, you can really see the bags under my eyes. But when I just look down, not even rotate my head, but just look down with my eyeshadow, with my eyelids, they disappear. You can't see them. And that has to do with the way that light hits, the way that light reflects from my eyes into the camera, etc. And again, that is still a photo of me, but it's not like I'm hiding something or making something disappear. It just is the way that the lens captures the light. So I've been talking for a while, and I've hit most of the high points of what I want to talk about, and I want to kind of wrap up with kind of some general take-homes. I think the broad strokes of what I wanted to say, I said at the beginning, like the pictures that you take, all of them are pictures of you, and they are representations of you, and you have the right to represent yourself the way that you want to the world. And if that includes smoothing your skin more than it is smoothed in real life, that's fine. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of with that. But I want to emphasize here, and I want to, what I wish that I had known when I started taking pictures, and what I wish that in particular I had known when I was struggling so much with my body image and taking pictures of myself was that my camera, my lights, the position of everything are all tools for me to create an image of myself that I want. I am not beholden to any of it. I am not beholden to how a lens or how a camera or how particular lighting represents me. There is no objective truth to how I look. There are trillions of them, more than that. And what you do when you take a photo of yourself and when you adjust things in a photo is finding that representation of you that feels the most right, that feels the most like you, and the you that you want other people to see. And that is valid. It doesn't make it not you. It is you. It is a photo of you, but now it's your photo of you. And I think that when we talk about photo manipulation and photo editing and photography in general, it comes with this baggage of that when you take a photo, you are morally bound to what the camera records because that's the truth. And that's not correct. All of these things are tools for you to make something that is true. And you should feel empowered to do that for yourself. And I am so happy to feel empowered to do that for myself. Now, because people see my face a lot, I do feel not necessarily the need or the obligation, but I do feel like talking about this is part of my responsibility, and talking about my feelings about photography and representation of skin and eyes and color is something that, because I have the ability to talk about, I can and I should. So I have on my Instagram, in the highlights section, I have a list of the kinds of, like, for example, edits I make to my photos. But it's something that when you're looking at other people's pictures, you should also keep in mind, in that how this person perceives themselves is not necessarily going to be the way that you perceive them if and when you ever saw them in person. When you scroll through Instagram, you are looking at representations of other people's perceptions of themselves and of their work. And we all do that. We all do that. And it's okay. And I want people to feel like they have the ability to, without shame, say, I am going to get the best representation of myself, the one that I'm happiest with, that I can, and know that it's a true representation. It's valid to work to get that representation, and that they are not being deceitful or lying or anything like that in the work that they take to do that. I think that's all I have to say on this topic. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know that some of this is a little more philosophical, and that's so up my alley, and I'm really excited to hear what other people think too. If you'd like to see more of me, please do subscribe to the channel. I am uploading on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the foreseeable future. You can find me in other places on the internet, at Instagram at Faces by Gina, and I also have a Facebook page that is Faces by Gina. Come hang out. You'll see lots more makeup looks than you see here on my channel, and we can continue the conversation there as well. I hope that you are having a great day wherever you are. I am so grateful for the gray weather because I have consistent lighting. And please remember to take care of yourself and think deeply about yourself and the world around you. And I will see you out there on the internet. Bye.